This is Lewis Art for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store and William Hill. Delighted today to be joined with the silent star, Mr. Aaron McKenna. How's everything been, mate? Have you how you been coping?
Yeah, brilliant. Just finishing off the rest of my training camp now. Staying over in London for 3 weeks to finish off the sparring. So I've already got around 100 rounds of sparring in. So get another 50 to 60 rounds in and all set to go. I could fight in the morning if I had to, but just have to wait until the 16th.
Yeah, is it sort of a hard one when you're training so much and you're waiting for a day? You've got a date, but do you find it hard when you're sort of itching to go, not to sort of peak too early and things like that?
Yeah, that's probably the hardest part, just waiting. I train all year round and I'm always in top shape, but this fight I'm really looking forward to now, fighting for another belt. So it's just all about putting in a big performance and getting a dominant victory.
You just said there that you're in London. You were telling me sort of off camera about you being in Russia, America, all these sorts of places. What is it like getting sort of different tastes of boxing in different countries? Like a lot of it can be sort of very similar and very the same, but do you feel like you sort of have a benefit where you're experiencing all sorts of different cultures when you're training?
Yeah, I'm lucky that I've traveled so much as an amateur boxer. Represented Ireland every year until I turned pro, captained my country 4 times at major events. So I was very fortunate to get that experience and been to Russia 6 times, and it's a different experience to most, like being out there training in training camps with the Russians and fighters from all over the world, Cubans and everything. So yeah, I picked up a lot of experience. So I've seen all the different styles in the world, and then when I turned pro, moved to America for 4 years and learned the proper pro style and put the best sparring in the world over in America. As an amateur, I actually fought Devin Haney in America back in 2011, so that was a good experience to get in with him.
Yeah, you just sort of spoke about Devin Haney there, and we saw him this weekend retain his undisputed lightweight titles. A bit of sort of controversy on the decision, but when you talk about sort of 11, 12 years ago when you shared the ring with him, do you feel like you knew then that this guy was going to definitely be something special?
Yeah, well, I remember when I was fighting him, like before there was talks of him, like Sap Judah or something was his godfather. He trained in the Floyd Mayweather gym all the time, so he was getting hyped up, and he was always going to be this person coming through. So he had that hype about him back then.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say, when you sort of look at the amateur circuit and you're someone that's heavily experienced in the amateurs, and I know you back yourself, but is there anyone that, other than Haney that you shared the ring with that you look at and you remember you sort of competing with them in the amateurs and you felt like these guys are these are special, whether it be the Cubans or anyone else?
Yeah, well, I've sparred a lot of Cubans. Cubans are always good. I sparred a few of them back in like 2015. I thought there would be a couple of good ones, and then one of my fights, I fought a world champion and a world finalist. So he's been to 2 world finals. I actually beat him over in Russia, so I think he might still be amateur, but he was good.
Yeah. What's sort of Russia like as an experience for you? It's I think one thing about Russians is they're always, obviously notoriously tough, very harsh, sort of a lot of the upbringings are very brutal, harsh, and it creates sort of a tough mind. What was that sort of like training, like sort of competing in Russia and amongst sort of different Russians? Did it sort of give you a new sense of sort of like perspective on training?
Yeah, definitely. When you're over there, training with the Russians, they're totally different mindset to people here in America. Like the way they go on, the way they train, just solely focused on training, no interaction or anything, just the way they go on. So yeah, I've learned a lot being over there. I've been to Ukraine as well. It's something similar to people in Ukraine. So yeah, it's been good to get all that experience over the years.
Yeah, when you talk about that sort of experience and that, that sort of all the different continents and this and that, do you feel like your style, when you're sort of figuring out your style, as you just turn over pro, you said you went to America to figure out like sort of the pro game and the pro style. When you talk about all these different styles that you've seen, do you feel like this has all put you in good stead to be like as versatile as you possibly can be? So when you're in a pro like sort of a pro fight and someone's showing that style, you've already seen that 10 times over.
Yeah, so yeah, in the amateurs I seen every style going. Like I've been in with every single style possible nearly. So when I'm sparring people or even in America, like there's not one style really that surprises me, or even in fights. It's nothing that I'm not used to. Yeah, so at one stage, even in the amateurs, I fought like 8 or 9 southpaws in a row,
Yeah.
and actually beat them all. So I actually fight
Yeah.
southpaws very well. Nearly
Yeah.
prefer to fight southpaws or orthodoxes.
How much would you say the emphasis on having, like we just talked about there, but like having really good fight IQ and actually being smart in the ring? Because, you know, it's something that I feel like is always sort of a bit underrated, is actually having the knowledge of the ring of all different styles. And you talked about there fighting 9 southpaws in a row and cleaning them all out, beating them all. Having that fight IQ and having that knowledge where if things get tough or you need to make adjustments, having that capability to do that, how important is that in sort of just your career and be one of your strengths?
Yeah, it's definitely really important to know when to flip the switch as well, or when to box and then when to pick it up or switch the gears. That's one of the things I've learned as well, like when to pick it up or when to use my boxing skills. I'm a very good boxer as well. I like to use my long reach and throw in long punches, but I like to push the pace as well and fight a bit like a Mexican. So I kind of have a lot of different styles I can do. But the important thing as well is to be entertaining and make sure you win the fights.
When you sort of flipped over to pro, being a heavily sort of experienced amateur, was it more learning the stuff outside the ring, would you say? And sort of when you're waiting for dates, whereas amateurs, you're getting like sort of consistent dates all the time, but this time you're sort of waiting for a date. Did you find that a difficult thing? Sort of, was it more the outside the ring than inside the ring stuff you had to get adjusted to?
Yeah, that's the hard part. Just waiting on fight dates and working towards a fight. In the amateurs, you're nearly fighting every month. I had a lot of amateur fights, over 161, so I was always very busy as an amateur. But in the pros, it's just more about waiting on dates. But I still train the whole year round. I'm always ready. So if I got the call like to fight within a couple of weeks, I'd be ready for it. But yeah, that's the main thing. Just making sure there's something to train towards, but always put in 100% effort in the training anyway, even if there is no fight date.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll talk about your fight date now. 16th of June, Shakiel Thompson, two undefeated fighters put their oil on the line. When this first fight got offered to you, I'm sure it was something that you took sort of within open hands to sort of two undefeated fighters. You're both going to put it on the line. And would you definitely say it's definitely one for the fans, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. I think it is. I was struggling to get someone to take fights this past few ones, so it's good to see someone finally take a fight. Two undefeated fighters going for it. It'll look good on TV as well. Two undefeated fighters, so it's a fight I'm really looking forward to, and I can't wait to go in there and do the business and take them out in style.
Is it a frustrating thing to deal with where you're saying that you're sort of struggling to get a fight and struggling to get a good opponent, but when you're going to get an opponent like him who's undefeated, experienced, game, was it a frustrating thing to time, but having the patience that you're going to get a good opponent now, it sort of paid off?
Yeah, well, Thompson's just a small stepping stone towards bigger fights for me. I think he's just a club level fighter who never really won anything as an amateur. Didn't think he became national champion, so he's very fortunate to get signed by Boxer. I think based off a couple of good spars that he had. So yeah, this is a fight I'm looking forward to. Really looking forward to taking him into the deep waters and getting him out of there and see what he's like when the pressure's really putting him.
So do you feel like there, you talk about your experience of being an elite amateur, that puts you ahead of a guy like Shakiel Thompson?
Yeah, he's never ever had any amateur experience like the way I have. He's never once boxed internationally. He's just a domestic level fighter, and that's the level he's at. He's just a tall, awkward southpaw, and he's never really had a high level as an amateur or a pro yet. As a pro, he's just fought 10 journeymen.
Do you feel like you also have a mental edge then as well over sort of a lot of these guys like Shaquille as well?
Yeah, definitely. I'm 16 and 0, 16 fights, like 23 years old. had a very, very impressive amateur record, representing Ireland all over the years, right up until I turned pro. Then moved to America when I was 18 for 4 years, got all the training in the best gyms over California, Mexico, Vegas, sparred a lot of world champions and been in the ring with a lot of good people. Now it's finally time to show people what I can do.
You just talked about sparring loads of people there. When you think about the world champions and the guys who've sparred in USA and Mexico, it's a sort of on the spot question. It's probably a hard one to think about, but who would you say are sort of notable names of some of the best guys that you've sparred?
I sparred a lot of world champions, Jose Ramirez, Munguia, Amir Khan, Cepeda's another good fighter. A lot of fighters over there in California. The biggest name probably would be Munguia.
Yeah,
Sparred him in Mexico in his gym in Tijuana. Did a good week of spar with him, and another fight that I'd like in the future.
I was literally just about to ask you that. You talk about sort of Shakiel Thompson being a stepping stone for you, and you look at the middleweights. Do you look at guys like you must look at guys like Munguia, Charlo, Janibek, guys like that you look at and you want what they've got.
Definitely, yeah, they're the people that you'd want to be fighting, pro boxing, the people at the top. My goal is to become world champion, and I believe all I need is just that one or two breakout fights, and they'll definitely get me opportunity. Like you mentioned, there's Johnny Beck as well, another southpaw. So a fight with Shakiel Thompson would set up nice for a southpaw. But another one's Lara. He's another world champion.
Yeah.
He's another fight that I definitely like.
Definitely. Well, as we sort of just close this off, I've got to sort of ask a very simple question, but for the guys who don't know already, what happens when you fight Shakiel Thompson in June?
Yeah, definitely going in there to hurt him and put on a very, very intense win. Going in there, throw a lot of punches, see what he's like, take him into the deep waters, fight any style I want, and he still wouldn't be able to back with anything in my eyes. He's a super middleweight, bleeding himself down to middleweight. He's not going to have much energy, and it'll be good to see what he's like on the scales at 160, bleeding to the bone.
Definitely. That's some savage stuff there, Aaron. I'd like us honestly just say best of luck for sort of 16th of June. I appreciate you sort of taking the time to speak to me, and yeah, all the best, mate. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Good talking to you.
Cheers, mate.